There must have been something higher up in the food chain. There must have been a top predator. We're creating a new knowledge for all humankind. We're going to one of the most inhospitable places on Earth.
We're really the first people to come here and have a good look at undiscovered animals that we've never seen or described before in science.
It's new to science. It's a new species we're working on.
Let's hope this works.
This monster that I found, it's just gigantic.
This was a killing machine.
It's twice as big as the one we see in T-Rex. I'm pretty confident saying that this is the ultimate predator.
On the edge of the Norwegian Arctic, a team of scientists and explorers embark on a secret mission. They are led by paleontologist and adventurer Jørn Hørum. They are hunting for Predator X.
If we find, what I hope we find, it will change everything.
Their destination is 800 miles inside the Arctic Circle, the islands of Svalbard.
11 months of the year, it's covered in snow and ice. 3 months of the year, it's dark 24/7 and temperatures down to -30. We're going to one of the most inhospitable places on Earth.
This is a barren land of ice and storms and blizzards. A feeding ground for thousands of polar bears. To come here is to risk your life. But for one man, Svalbard could be a Jurassic treasure trove. Jørn Hørum is a leading paleontologist. His lab is in the Natural History Museum at Oslo, Norway. But he first came to the museum as a child. He saw the bones of what he thought were monsters. Monsters like the T-Rex, and he was hooked.
I wanted to go out on large expeditions, maybe lead large expeditions, dig out important fossils, large fossils. And of course, finding something like T-Rex or something even bigger would be the biggest dream come true.
But it wasn't just the T-Rex. Hørum grew up with myths of sea creatures, monsters that live in the depths of Lake Mjøsa. The story is Norway's equivalent of the Loch Ness Monster. Hørum began to wonder if there was any truth behind the legends. And then one day at the museum, he saw it with his own eyes. The fossilized flippers, 150 million years old, of a real sea monster. They were just a collection of small prehistoric bones, but they were unlike anything that swims in the ocean today. They'd been found by an Arctic expedition back in 1931. Hørum was inspired. He wanted to see the site for himself. 2008, Hørum arrives on the Arctic island of Svalbard. It's the size of West Virginia. Its population, 2,000 people, 5,000 polar bears.
This is everything we need to survive for 2 weeks at the dig site. And we even have to bring drinking water into the field. So there will be a few trips with the helicopter.
They need over half a ton of drinking water and everything they're going to eat.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
The weight the expedition saves by taking freeze-dried food allows for extra ammunition.
If the polar bears comes out at night, one of these will go off.
Most fossil hunters don't need guns, but then most fossil hunters don't share their workspace with polar bears.
We had to do firearm training. All the members of the expedition needs to know their guns. we drill every year. It's still good to have one day at the shooting range in the beginning just to know your weapon. Most of my crew now has been with me for 4 years. You need the best people where we are going, and these are the best.
Patrick Druckenmiller's role is vital. His specialty is marine reptiles. He's a world authority. He'll work closely with Hurram to verify any find they make.
What we're doing is a very, very exciting thing. We're getting to be the first people to really document an incredibly rich and diverse assemblage of marine reptiles that we've never seen or described before in science. And so I just feel very privileged to be a part of the team that's working on this.
11 people will be delivered with 2 weeks' supplies to a point just 620 miles from the North Pole. From there, they will climb to 1,600 feet above sea level and start digging. Base camp will be on the slopes of Mount Noring. It's 2,000 feet above the shoreline. There's no tree cover within 1,000 miles. And here, even in what they call summer, every gust of wind is an Arctic wind.
The weather conditions at Svalbard is of course challenging. It's about 2 degrees all the time, and it's blowing. It never stops blowing. So we have to prepare with nailing down the tents with the tent poles that are like 3 feet long. We need to have special tents that survives this kind of storms. If an expedition loses all its tents, of course, we will probably die.
Svalbard is a full 10 degrees north of the northernmost point of Alaska. So when we talk about working in the Arctic, this is working in the Arctic.
While Hurram's team hunts for a predator that's been extinct for 150 million years, they've got to be aware that another creature hunts here. They are now deep in polar bear territory, and once a bear smells food, it doesn't stop.
So we have to prepare to meet polar bears. They see us as food, so they can attack, and they can attack fast, and they can go into the tents and get us when we are sleeping. You always carry a gun, no matter what.
One of the team, Tommy Wences, rigs his tripwires. If a polar bear triggers one of them, everyone in camp will know about it.
We'll hit it, and this will go up in the air and explode and with a big bang.
It's a precaution that's worth the occasional false alarm. The one thing they don't need to worry about is the bears attacking in the dark. At this time of year in the Arctic, the sun never sets. They've only got a 3-week window to get in and get out. Conditions are deteriorating. The expedition could be over before it begins. In the depths of the Arctic, Jørn Hurram and his team are searching for the bones of a ferocious predator.
Hey, if you take a killer whale and put on a crocodile head on a killer whale, then you got it.
They will face the worst that the elements can throw at them in a bid to recover a new species from the ice. It may seem crazy to start digging for a Jurassic sea monster on an Arctic mountainside, but Jørn Hurram knows this is the perfect place.
150 million years ago, Svalbard was not a wasteland. It was covered by a temperate sea, and all kinds of living creatures were present.
The seas teemed with life. Ammonites wafted through the water, while marine reptiles cruised in search of food. Paleontologists have pieced together this vanished food chain, but Hurram thinks there is still something bigger waiting to be found.
there must have been something eating them. There must have been something higher up in the food chain. There must have been a top predator here. And I really wondered what that predator was like.
The creatures of the Jurassic era were preserved in death, fossilized in the seabed. As time passes, continents shift. Over millions of years, the ocean floor was pushed upwards. It became the frozen islands of Svalbard. And what Hurum is searching for resurfaces. The team heads out, and immediately they get their first bit of bad luck. The weather suddenly changes. It's a total whiteout. Polar bears hunt by smell. They don't need clear visibility, but the team does.
Walking around in this fog alone, you can get really, really lost very fast. We're going to stay quite close together and dig.
Hurum knows where to start digging. He's been here before and seen clues in the ground.
We were really lucky in 2007 to find some pieces of bone coming out of the shale.
But lethal weather conditions brought the expedition to an end. Then he was forced to evacuate the dig site. What he did bring back was small bone samples, and tests confirmed his find was 147 million years old. Hurum had a hunch the specimens were part of a much larger skeleton. Coming back, mounting another bigger expedition, is the only way he could really know.
When you start to tell people about it, start to promise that you can find something really exciting and so on, of course you feel the pressure. But really, we cannot promise anything when we start the dig. So that's a gamble every time.
Hurum left a clear marker at the place where he made the find. It was 1 foot high, only now the snow is 3 feet deep.
And that's the last pictures from this finding. And as you see, there's no snow at all at that point. That was late in August. When there's this much snow, all the small creeks disappear. So we're having a difficult time. 3 feet of snow in the whole area where the monster was supposed to be. And of course, trying to dig through a big snowfield to find some pieces of bone coming out of the shale, it's really difficult. This could take days.
Although Hurum did record the marker's position on his GPS, it's only accurate to within a certain distance. They're still left with the job of digging out an area the size of a basketball court.
We're working in several groups now, just to be efficient.
It's Patrick Druckenmiller, Jørn's marine reptile specialist, who makes the crucial breakthrough.
That's it. Yep. We got a cairn. There it is.
Now the hard work begins. To get to the find, they will have to clear the snow and separate the fossilized bones from the frozen rock that held them for 150 million years. The rock is shale. They are standing on the Jurassic ocean floor. They must clear a large area or quarry before they dig.
And then we'll take some of that black mud and throw on the snow around, so it will be a black hollow around here. And that will help melt the snow around if we need the bigger quarry.
They work for as long as their energy allows. 11 hours. Then they stop. But this isn't an environment where it's easy to relax.
I'll lead off it.
Jørn's team endure weeks of confined living, no showers, and bag after bag of freeze-dried food.
Yummy.
Even the simplest task can be dangerous.
going to the bathroom, of course, it's a big challenge sometimes when there's a storm, when it's cold, when it's windy, and when it's snowy. But at the same time, you also need to bring a gun.
There's always the threat of polar bears.
So there's a special rifle that's only used as a bathroom rifle. So when it's hanging on its place, you know that, okay, now I can go to the bathroom.
Even after a day of laboring, sleep's hard to come by. The temperature is still freezing, and the sun is still shining. They have survived the whiteout, but it is the weather again that will be their stumbling block.
We call them bullet winds, katabatic winds, local winds going down from the high mountain hitting us. It was almost like the earth was shaking. It was gone again within seconds. Wow! And then we were covered in dirty snow and sediments in just 1 second. So we could see this yellow ball moving extremely fast down the mountain. If that kind of winds would go on for more than a few times, it will break the whole camp, it will break everything.
They keep working through the wind, and it is backbreaking. Jørn's team has cleared the snow, but just beneath the surface is permafrost, layers of ice. Beneath that, the rock is frozen.
Permafrost is a real problem because the rock itself, when it's melted, it's pretty soft. We can just use these red rakes and we can pull it right off the hill, no problem. When we hit the permafrost, it's like granite. For every meter or two back into the hill we go, we have a meter or two more rock to dig out, and it gets harder and harder the deeper in you go.
Slowly, over the next few days, the fossilized bones start to emerge.
We're quite happy to move as much rock as is necessary if we've got a nice specimen in there. We'll just keep digging till it ends.
With his years of expertise, Herm begins to see familiar shapes amidst the shale.
We got bone all the way from here to approximately here. And there's some kind, it looks like now that there's some symmetry in this. It's broken up, but it's a huge end of something.
The evidence is scattered across the dig site, giving further clues to what they have found.
Yeah, it's definitely big, and really about the only choice for something this size would be a big pliosaur, and a pretty impressive one at that.
A pliosaur is one of the most terrifying beasts of the ancient ocean.
Got some good surface around.
This one appears far bigger than any found before.
We are not exactly sure what we found. It looked like the back end of the skull. It's about 1 meter wide. That makes the whole skull about 3 meters. So that's a new world record.
The skull is the crown jewel of any find and will provide the evidence they need to identify the species. They need to keep the skull remains in one piece, but getting through the permafrost requires brute force. They inch their way down. There's days of cutting, drilling, digging.
If the specimen had been any larger, we would have not been able to dig it in one field season.
It's tough physically and mentally. Do they have the strength to bring the specimen home on this trip?
You need to see when people have pushed their limits too far, because if you push yourself longer now, we will have a breakdown and then we have to fly you out with a helicopter.
They've got one last hurdle to free the beast, and it is the riskiest bit so far. The key piece, the skull section, must be pried out of the ground. To protect the exposed surface, it's wrapped in plaster, reinforced with steel. The rest of the team gather the other 20,000 fragments strewn across the mountainside. They'll need every clue to piece the find back together. The skull is ready to be lifted from its ancient grave, but this is the most dangerous stage so far. It could crumble as they turn it.
The whole block is moving now, and we have to prepare to flip it. And we'll put a pallet under here, and yep, the guys will lift it from behind, and we will drag down here. It needs to be done in a few seconds.
Let's hope this works.
And 2, 3.
This is the payoff for days of mind-numbing, freezing work. The ice and the rock and the pieces of bone that they have held for 150 million years come free. This single section weighs 1 ton. Hiram calls in the chopper. It's a Super Puma, normally used for search and rescue. Hiram knows that even at this late stage, he could lose what he's come all this way to find.
10 years ago, I was in the crew that lost a dinosaur during a helicopter lift because we estimated the weight to be far less than it was actually. So the helicopter had to drop the specimen, and it crushed into thousands and thousands of pieces.
The chopper flies in, and there's a moment of tension as they struggle to attach the rock to the winch. The fossil inside is older than these mountains. It rose with them from the seabed. And now, it's lifted clear. Hiram now has what he came for. But is it the discovery of a lifetime? Can they bring back one of the most powerful creatures that ever lived? Predator X. From a frozen Arctic mountainside, Hiram and his team have pulled the scattered bones of what they believe is a giant sea monster. And it begins its 2-week ocean voyage back to their Oslo lab. They know it is a creature from the Jurassic era, around 147 million years old. And they know it's big. But apart from that, what kind of beast is it? Svalbard, where the find was made, was once covered by a temperate sea. It held some terrifying creatures. Hybodonts were the top sharks, averaging 6 feet and ruthless opportunistic predators. But the top of the food chain were the reptiles. Dolphin-like ichthyosaurs with razor-sharp teeth. They cruised the ocean in search of a meal. Plesiosaurs, averaging 20 feet, used their long necks to snap up unsuspecting prey. But Hiram's monster most closely resembles one of these, a pliosaur. Specimens found up till now also averaged 20 feet.
Definitely what we seem to have is a pliosaur, but I'm not sure it's like some of the others that have been described before.
The crocodile shape of the skull, I think we can keep that already from what we have seen in the field.
Very much suggesting that predatory nature.
Except for the size, of course. That's it's a big difference.
Finally, the fossils arrive, and this is the key piece. The contents of this plaster case could unlock the mystery of what Predator X was. The team believes that buried in the shale are the bones of the beast's skull and the jaw. They're fragile, and they're priceless. So getting them out without damaging them demands surgical precision, as well as brute force. Now the real work begins, separating bone from fossil, identifying, extracting, and preserving thousands of fragments.
You don't know what's inside, and now it's time at last to start really to see what it is.
But hidden in the shale is the most complex forensic puzzle nature could have devised. They didn't just pull a skeleton out of the ground. Over millions of years, the bones have shattered and splintered, and they are concealed amongst flakes of rock. To the untrained eye, they are almost indistinguishable.
This is as crumbled as a specimen can be and still be possible to save. We know that everything we collect is new to science. It's a new species we're working on that no living person's ever seen. So that's really the drive behind it, because we're creating a new knowledge for all humankind with excavating this kind of specimens.
The bone fragments found on the mountainside around the skull case total more than 20,000. The job is immense, and after a couple of weeks, Jørn assembles a team of experts to help. This is the biggest challenge of its kind they've ever faced, but it yields a breakthrough quicker than they ever could have hoped.
Now we know that we have the skull. What we managed to glue together today is one of the most crucial bones of the skull. It's the condyle.
The condyle. Every vertebrate animal from fish to mammals has one. It connects the skull to the spine. It's tough and compact, and it's one of the best possible clues to the beast's size.
The condyle we found, trying to compare it to a T-Rex condyle, this condyle is of course is half a ball at the end of the skull here connecting to the neck vertebra. Our condyle, it's twice as big as the one we see in T-Rex. It's really, really big. It's gigantic.
It'll take a complex series of calculations to work out the precise length of the sea creature. But what Hurram now knows is that he's in uncharted territory. This is something that neither he nor anyone else has found before. The work on the bones continues, but Hurram knows that to understand Predator X, how it lived and hunted, he's got to understand its habitat, the Jurassic Ocean. The best place for this is Dorset, England. This shore is known as the Jurassic Coast because it's littered with fossils that come from the time of the Predator. These cliffs were once the bed of the same temperate ocean as Svalbard. Hurram's come to see Steve Etches, a man who knows these beaches better than anyone. His life's work has been gathering fossils here. He believes that from this land, Hurram can get a glimpse of the Predator's world. On the shore, within minutes, they make a discovery.
Hang on, what's that? Oh, you just see the edge. Look at that, it's stuck in this mud, look.
It's an ammonite, a prehistoric relative of the squid. At the time of the Predator, the ocean teemed with these creatures. For Hurram, every one of the fossils is a clue to help visualize the Predator's world. For him, the key is to piece together the links in the Jurassic food chain. And Steve Etches is uniquely equipped to help him. Over a lifetime, Etches has built an unrivaled private collection of fossils from the predator's ocean. They just happen to be stored in his garage. Hiram is one of the first scientists ever to see it.
So have you collected all these specimens yourself?
The majority of it, yeah.
What they're looking at are the creatures that shared the ocean with Predator X. They swam with it, or they were its prey. They range from the simplest, smallest crustaceans to a great dolphin-like reptile, the ichthyosaur. But the key find, the biggest clue, is this: a bone from a creature called a long-necked plesiosaur. This too was a predator, one of the giants of the ancient ocean, ranging up to 40 feet long. And yet the plesiosaur bone bears scars, the clear evidence of an attack.
This bone is a limb bone.
Yeah, the plesiosaur.
Paddle
Yep.
of a plesiosaur. Okay.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and the size is comparable to the largest plesiosaurs we got, I think.
Yeah, sort of truck size, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see actually this is a tooth of a pliosaur that actually fits perfectly. Can you see into that, into that groove?
Look at that.
And then the other side, there's another groove, so the corresponding tooth actually fits there as well.
For Etches, it's a perfect match. The tooth of an animal closely related to Predator X and the bone of a plesiosaur. The point is this: the creature that was attacked was the size of a truck. And the creature that did the damage would have been dwarfed by the monster that Hiram has found.
I really wonder what the Svalbard monster was capable of.
Right, exactly.
That's
That's quite scary.
That's a scary thought. Yeah.
Yeah, very.
This is the smoking gun, the first physical proof that he's seen of the Predator's lethal power. Now, as the team continues to rebuild the Predator, he wants to put flesh on the bones, to understand how the largest sea monster ever found moved, hunted, and killed. Jørn Hiram and his team continue their painstaking work, assembling the 20,000 bone fragments that will make up the skeleton of Predator X. From the bones they've recovered, Druckenmiller calculated the monster's size, and he wants to show Hiram just how big it was. They mark out its length, nose to tail. The T-Rex, whose statue stands nearby, would have been dwarfed by its size.
About 10 feet here. About 20 feet. Very long tail, but 30 feet.
You're passing the tail now?
We're past the tail and we're still going. 40 feet, still going. And 50 feet. We're right here.
50 feet long. But the real shock is its weight. Based on what they know about today's ocean-going creatures, they've calculated that a reptile with a skeleton like this would have weighed the same as an 18-wheeler truck, around 45 tons. And that's 6 T-Rexes.
If we take a diver and scale it and show it together with a white shark, a normal-sized great white shark, that's probably a good scale. And then this is the size of the monster. This is so big.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Scuba diver is one mouthful.
Yeah, it's just a small bite for a pliosaur.
And now that they know the true size of the beast they're dealing with, one particular question leaps out. Predators stalk. They ambush, chase, and strike. How does a creature that's bigger than a bus and 3 times as heavy hunt? This monster was propelled by 4 giant flippers. They've retrieved and cleaned sections from one flipper, and they're now piecing it back together. Given that these bones are 150 million years old, the amount of detail that can still be seen is remarkable.
There can't have been much muscles here, do you think? Looking at whales and so on today, there's not a lot of muscles going on in the fingers.
No, just, yeah, connective tissue that
Yeah.
sort of binds it all together.
Yeah.
But probably the musculature being kept up at the
Of course.
upper end, yeah.
And that's one really good bone, isn't it? And look, if I just go and lay down next to it,
There you
this is
go.
I'm 6 feet. Look at the size of this.
So if you're 6 feet, then we've got about a 10-foot long pedal here. I mean, that says it all right there.
That's cool.
It's not just the size, but the structure of the flipper. No other creature has 4 large flippers of this type. Sea turtles have 4, but the rear ones are smaller than the front and are just used for steering. Sea lions have 4 flippers, but front to back they also vary in size. And yet, Hurram and Druckenmiller have seen enough. They can now build a picture of the system that powered the Predator through the water. What they're going to attempt is a scientific first, to have that system rebuilt so that they can visualize the hunting strategy of Predator X. All the information they have has been sent to Duke University, North Carolina. Here, the pioneering work of Professor Lawrence Howell and Dr. Frank Fish combines engineering with biology. This is biomechanics.
In the past, the way that paleontologists would try and deduce how an animal functioned, how it lived, was they were really restricted to looking at the bones and anything else that could be fossilized. And as a result, they had a very limited view of what sort of way an animal could actually get around. What we've done now is by building physical models, we can get an idea of how an animal, in the case of the sea monster, could swim.
Since there's nothing like it in nature, Lawrence Howell built a Predator flipper. It's scaled down, but precisely and perfectly contoured according to the data that the team have supplied. It's analyzed using a system that normally tests airplane wings and race cars, a wind tunnel. In the water, the flipper would rise and fall and twist as it drove the Predator forward. Here, they manipulate airflow to model those precise movements.
And what we're seeing is the lift and drag, that is the amount of force that the flipper's actually experiencing as we have an airflow go by it. And this is close to replicating what we would actually have on a real sea monster flipper if it was in water.
In effect, they're recreating the swim cycle of the flipper, the engine which propelled 45 tons of killer toward its prey.
We're also looking at the flow pattern over the flipper. And we do this by having little tufts that are mounted on the flipper.
The tufts show up under ultraviolet light. It means that the scientists and their monitoring equipment can see the airflow. When they lie horizontally, running from front to back of the flipper, it's cutting cleanly through the flow. When they change direction, the flipper's creating drag, which makes it less efficient.
By examining the flow over the model of a foreflipper, a front flipper, and a hind flipper, we can get an idea of what the hydrodynamics of these flippers are.
And the results are striking. The flipper's astoundingly effective. In fact, this huge beast could power through the water using just 2 of its 4 flippers.
What we can see is that the animal should be able to produce enough lift and thus enough thrust with just using 2 flippers to overcome the drag of the body.
So the question is, why 4? Is it simply about raw speed? Double the number of flippers and the creature goes twice as fast? Or is it something else?
Maybe controlling maneuvering, stabilizing the body, or could be used when the animal really needs to accelerate very quickly.
The extra flippers gave Predator X some advantage in the water, and Hiram wants to know what it was. And there is a way to find out. He'll never see a pliosaur swim, but he can come close. There is only one place to do this, in New York State, with a unique robot. At Vassar College, Professor John Long has found a new way to tackle this 150-million-year-old engineering puzzle. Madeline is the world's only four-flippered robot.
Madeline is a custom-built robot that allows us to test how creatures that have four flippers may have swum. And these creatures can still be living, or they can be extinct, like sea monster. So a robot is a kind of simulation, a mimic of what might have been happening back there. And the great thing about robots is you can't violate the laws of physics like you can when you're using a computer. So a robot really grounds us in physical reality, and it gives us really, we think, the closest view to what might have been happening.
Madeline may not look like the ultimate predator, but she can behave like it.
The business end of Robot Madeline is really her flippers. And so these flippers plug in to the motors right here. Here are two on the left side that are independently controlled. So we can have Madeline swimming with just two flippers on the front. We can have her using the back ones, or we can have her swimming with all four.
Her onboard instruments record a mass of information, but most important is the energy she uses. It's key because this may be what gave Predator X its edge: fuel efficiency.
She has the ability to measure at any time how much power she's using in terms of electricity. So we know how much energy it's taking her to swim. This is the equivalent of asking you, how much food is it taking you to run a marathon, right? And know that right when you're doing it, or to take a sprint, or to walk up the stairs. And so this allows us to compare the energy costs of four flippers versus two flippers. Now this is all logged on board. She's got a hard drive right here, so she's collecting all this data. So she does her mission, and then she comes up to the surface, and we record and analyze the data on our topside computers.
It's been at least 65 million years since anything living swam this way. Because she can be programmed to use her flippers in every possible combination, the team can try out different scenarios. They can see every way in which Predator X might have swum.
And then here I'm going to brakes. Now we're going to go forward and turn, and we're going to have her go now. Full speed forward, four flippers, and then we stop. Bring this up here, plug in USB, and see what she has to say about her mission into the past.
The first thing Long must do is calculate exactly how much energy Predator X needed to function. His results suggest just 25,000 calories a day. It weighed 500 times what an adult human weighs, but it only needed 10 times the calories. For the Predator, that was a small plesiosaur every couple of days. The equivalent for you or me would be 2 teaspoons of sugar. But Long's also found out something very specific about how the Predator might have moved and attacked.
So what Madeline is showing us now is what it looks like to have 2 flippers working and what it's like to have 4 flippers working. And we've got velocity in blue here, which is about the same swimming with 2 flippers and 4 flippers in terms of maximum velocity. Once you get up to speed, 2 flippers are as good as 4.
This is a revelation. Predator X could hit its top speed without using the extra flippers. Where they make the difference is in acceleration.
But what's different is how quickly you get up to speed. With 4 flippers, you get up to speed much more quickly. That's shown in these big jumps in acceleration here. Boom! If you've got 4 flippers, you can get up to speed or slow down much faster.
It points to a way of hunting that Long's seen in today's predators.
big predators tend not to be doing a lot of acceleration unless they're going in for the kill. That's when you want to use 4 flippers. What we know from Madeline is it takes less energy to use 2 flippers, so you might as well get up to speed, turn off 1 set of flippers, save your energy, but then when you find your prey, boy, you want to make sure you get it, so you use those 4 flippers.
If this is what Predator X did, it shows again just how effective a killer it was, conserving energy, then deploying it at exactly the right instant.
And so this is consistent with the idea then that sea monster could have been cruising around with 2 flippers, which doesn't cost as much energy as 4 flippers. And then, boy, when it sees a plesiosaur, bam, it's got another set of motors. It can click into gear, and it needs to change speed and maneuver, and it can do it. And it doesn't care at that point how much energy it takes. You want to eat. Sea monster hungry. Eat plesiosaur. Go, 4 flippers, and you got your meal.
The team always knew that this creature was big, but they're now adding to that picture. It had immense physical power. It was capable of lethal efficiency. And next, they're going to look at the system which controlled this hunting machine. If this was the ultimate predator, are the clues to its killer instinct hidden in its brain? The team at the Oslo Museum has pulled the remains of a sea monster 150 million years old from the Arctic wasteland of Svalbard. They're building a picture of how it looked, 45 tons of reptile, 50 feet long, and how it could move through the water on its 4 immense flippers. But they want to know how the monster lived, how it hunted. Was it really the most proficient killer the world has ever seen? It's a challenge because all that remains of Predator X's bones. There's no skin, no tissue, no organs. And yet there may be still a way to delve inside its long extinct brain. Patrick Druckenmiller's come to a facility in the UK run by Granger and Worrell. They build and test engines for race cars. What interests him is one particular piece of equipment, a CT scanner. One of very few in the world powerful enough to scan a really dense object like an engine block or a fossilized skull.
CT scanning skulls is groundbreaking research, and it's enabling us now to see and visualize the parts of the skull that we never saw before, and allows us to say really exciting new things.
If he can see inside the skull, he can see the shape of the brain that was once there, and that could tell him about how the brain worked. Since the bones of Predator X are still being assembled, Druckenmiller's brought the perfectly preserved skull of another pliosaur. Though it was less than a quarter of the size of our predator, its skull appears to be virtually identical. It's going to provide vital information. This machine is powerful enough to see detail through 18 inches of stone. But can it take Druckenmiller back 100 million years to show him the inner working of an extinct predator's brain?
Looking at a human's brain, we see that probably one of the largest and most conspicuous parts of the brain is the cerebral hemispheres that are all twisted and convoluted, and they're used for all sorts of very human sorts of behaviors, including a lot of the speech centers are located in there. It tells us a little bit about what we do, what we're like. If we look at the brain of something like a dolphin, we see a very similar enlarged cerebral hemispheres. Clearly, dolphins are considered intelligent animals.
What kind of structure will the scan reveal? Over nearly 4 hours, it captures more than 600 images of the skull. Then they're pulled together to produce a millimeter-accurate 3D model. Stripping away the mineral deposits that clung to the bone and revealing detail that the naked eye could never pick up. The brain casing, the orange area, is seen for the very first time. It's a distinctive shape, and most striking of all, it's tiny. A brain this size would make up a fraction of 1% of the predator's body weight.
Pliosaurs were around for many, many millions of years, and I would call them a very successful group of marine predators. And it doesn't necessarily take a brain the size of a human in order to be a very successful animal in your environment.
This is a computer-generated model of the predator's brain. And Druckenmiller has seen this same sort of brain shape before. It belonged to the most feared creature in today's oceans, the great white shark.
It's interesting to compare the brain cavity that we're seeing with our pliosaur to a great white shark. Great white sharks are very much visual predators amongst other senses that they rely on, and so we see relatively large optic lobes for vision processing cues in a great white shark, and that's an area which was also well developed in a pliosaur, which was very likely a visual predator.
Suddenly, the similarities mount up. The great white and Predator X were both, in their time, the top marine predators. Both are efficient, lethal hunting machines. There are clear parallels in the shape and makeup of their brains. Both appear to have evolved a powerful visual sense. Ultimately, this points to a major connection between the two. Because Predator X's eyes were located on the top of its head, enabling it to swim along while looking up, the experts have suggested that it attacked its prey by ambush from below. This is what a great white does. They are trying to visualize a predator attack, an event that occurred 150 million years ago. The best way of doing that is to see a great white in action. Jørn Hurum has come to South Africa, to the Marine Predator Laboratory, SAMPLA. Located at Mossel Bay, it's home to a groundbreaking research project which studies the way in which the sea's most efficient killers, particularly great white sharks, hunt. Head of the team here is Ryan Johnson.
Although the white shark may not have the most complex developed brain, it is still capable of very complex behaviors, very smart behaviors that maximize its success. And that's probably one of the reasons why white sharks and sharks in general, in evolutionary terms, so successful.
No one has ever built such a complete picture of the way in which a marine predator hunts.
Looking at the sharks could give us some clues about how the monster behaved 150 million years ago.
The SAMPLA team's bank of knowledge is based on 5 years' work. They place electronic tags on great whites in the wild, then follow them and watch what they do. They've seen behavior that's been documented nowhere else.
Mossel Bay is such a wonderful place to research white sharks. This was a place where we first documented ever a great white shark successfully hunting a seal at night time. We've tracked a white shark a couple years ago for 103 hours continuously. That's a world record.
The team tries to draw a shark in. Though 150 million years apart, Predator X and the great white shark lived in similar environments, had the same need to feed, were governed by the same rules.
Shark gets lured past a boat, we jab that in using this tagging pole, and the shark swims off carrying this. And with the receiver that we've got, it gives us information on where they hunt, where they rest, how fast they swim, and a whole lot of other stuff. We've tagged over 100 sharks in the last 5 years. You know, the amount of information we can get from this bay has been incredible. It's been unprecedented.
And to Hurum, it's invaluable. The design of the tracking equipment means that they are able to plot a shark's movements in 3D space, not just where it is on a map, but the depth at which it's swimming. A specially mounted camera gives them eyes under the water. There is no better way to understand how a predator hunts. And it's Hurum who makes the first sighting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There you go. What we want to do is basically lure it close to the bait, and when it goes to the bait, its dorsal fin will come out of the water, and we can get a photo identification of it. And once we're happy with that and we've got a size on it, then we'll be ready to tag it. Oh, yeah, you see now, she likes it.
The first thing Hiram notices is though the predator is drawn by the promise of food, it doesn't attack blindly. It's smarter than that, instinctively cautious.
This is over 3, it's about 3.2, 3. Yeah. Okay, you have to be careful, slowly, lure him in.
What Hiram sees is cunning, an instinct for self-preservation, and the preparation for a sudden, devastating strike. He watches this display knowing that there are startling similarities between the brain of the great white and the brain of the predator. He's seeing how the predator would have operated. As the shark's fin crests the water, Johnson knows that his opportunity is about to come.
You know, that's one of the signs of when a shark's more confident, when it's more comfortable, is if it lets its dorsal fin come out of the water if it comes to the surface. So when you do see these fins start poking out a lot, you know, get ready to tag a shark, because she's a good player. Ready? Yay! That was a long time in the waiting, eh? Okay, let's get the transmitter or the monitor set up so we can start tracking, see what the shark does. Cool. Nice. Right, Elizabeth. Cool. So what we're going to do now is set up the monitoring system since we've got the transmitter on. How we do that is basically Elizabeth is going to be pointing her hydrophone at the shark.
Oh, yeah.
And when she does that, we know what direction the shark's and also how close we are. How are we looking? So Alvin, just carry on the same direction? Cool. Okay, just press monitor. You see the signal strength?
Yes.
It tells us how close we are. As we get closer, the signal strength gets stronger. We're still good. Gonna speed up a bit, mate. Yeah. See, not only does this signal strength show how close we are to the shark, but hidden in the acoustic signal is the swimming depth. Shows you where in the water column, which is very, you know, for your stuff and for our stuff in terms of trying to understand how they're hunting these seals, it tells us a lot of useful information.
Yes.
So hopefully when the shark heads down to Seal Island now, she's going in the right direction, we'll be able to see her pattern of patrol when she's actually hunting for seals.
What happens next gives Hiram a new clue to the relationship between predator and prey. Seal Island is a piece of rock 800 yards long, 500 yards wide, and home to thousands of seals. Follow any shark in these waters, and it will eventually lead to Seal Island.
In South Africa, wherever there's seals, there's great white sharks. They coexist together because the sharks hunt them. But what we've managed to do here in Mossel Bay is learn a lot more on the fine scale, a lot more intricately what's happening.
For anyone wanting to know about how marine predators behave, this part of the ocean is like a giant lab. And for Hiram, everything he sees adds to what he knows about Predator X.
One of the big things is that we realize that the sharks aren't always just patrolling the Seal Island.
No?
They don't want to make the prey too afraid. So often between their hunting bouts, they'll head up to Hartenbos about 4 k's away and rest there, let the seals get more comfortable, and then they'll come for very specific periods to hunt.
To Hiram, this echoes what they've already learned about the predator's swimming patterns. It may have been able to operate in 2 modes, one cruising and conserving energy, one going full throttle when the time was right to attack.
There is a theory of fear which states that predators shouldn't scare the wits out of prey all the time, or else this prey will simply go away. And that's actually what we see here in Mossel Bay with the white sharks and the seals.
Did Predator X operate in a similar way? allowing its prey to feel safe, waiting for it to drop its guard. They've already seen that Predator X had a tiny brain, but here's the proof that it could still have been a skilled, cunning hunter.
There is a lot of very complex, very specific behaviors going on that allow them to exploit what is a very smart prey species, the Cape fur seals. They know when to hunt, they know where to hunt, and they've also developed a very complex behavioral strategy to be able to hunt down what is a very difficult prey to get a hold of.
On the rock, there's clear evidence that a shark has been here only recently to feed.
The seal we've just seen was obviously attacked by a great white shark, and he was actually one of the lucky ones. He was coming back from his fishing trip, shark saw him, attacked him, and only managed to grab his hindquarters, and he got back to land. But what it tells us was that was a very large shark.
But can Hiram witness a predator attack for himself? Johnson prepares the decoy.
This was a labor of love that took about 3 minutes. So they're pretty quick and nasty, but very, very effective.
Out of the water, the decoy seal looks unconvincing, but it might work because of the way in which the shark and Predator X could attack. From below, picking out only the silhouette of the prey.
The last decoy got a bit beaten up yesterday, and the shark actually swallowed and swam off, so it's this guy's first run, so I just want to really test and see how he's going to fly.
If it takes the bait, Hiram will get what he's come 6,000 miles to see. Today's top predator is going to show him how the ultimate prehistoric monster made a kill. The bones of Predator X have made an incredible journey through several feet of icy rock, across 900 miles of freezing ocean, down 150 million years, and into the Oslo lab. Here, the team continues the task of sifting, sorting, and fitting together the 20,000 fragments which will one day form again into a skeleton. Patrick Druckenmiller believes that they're about to reach a watershed moment, reassembling the massive jaw which gave this monster its distinctive, terrifying appearance.
Oh, I'm pretty optimistic we'll get a good identification out of it. Sometimes what it takes is putting the two pieces together that you've been working on for a while and suddenly visualizing it from the right angle, and it just sets off a light in your head, a search image from other skulls that you've seen, and you say, ah, I know what that is, and then it's sort of an aha moment.
6,000 miles away off the coast of South Africa, project leader Göran Hiram is wrestling with his own piece of the puzzle. He wants to know how this predator did its job. They've spotted similarities between it and today's top ocean-going killer. The next logical step is to see for himself how a great white strikes. Marine biologist Ryan Johnson has made a decoy to replicate the silhouette of the shark's favorite food, a young seal.
The sharks in this area is known to breach when they attack sea lions, and of course they are picking up a lot of speed from 10-15 meters deep waters, and maybe this can really say something about the monster too. Maybe they're using the same strategy of really putting a lot of force into that first attack.
If Predator X did its hunting like the shark, it went looking for prey at dusk or in the hours after dawn. The sun's low, and the silhouette of a threat approaching underwater is going to be harder to see. With the bait set and trailing in the water, all they can do is wait for a shark to come near.
So what I got here is a shark tooth, which really illustrates quite nicely how these sharks take out their prey like the seals. You can see along this edge there's a lot of serrations.
Yeah.
So it's not that these teeth are really built for crushing, for smashing. they're more built for soaring. They hit in, and you'll see the shark's head go back and forth and actually soars away at the flesh.
Oh, yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
I don't know how this compares to your sea monster, but it works very well for these sharks today.
Well, we got serrations too, you know, but...
You know, that's rather intimidating and
Yeah.
embarrassing,
Well,
actually.
Yeah, but most of it's of course a root, so the upper part is quite comparable in the shape, except that this is in cross section. It's more triangular than your tooth. It's much sharper, looking like a knife, and you have serrations on the sides here, and the cross section is very different from a shark.
Yeah.
That means that this is a bone crusher. I think the whole shape of the tooth tells us that this is designed not for cutting flesh like a shark, but more for actually jamming the jaws together, crushing all the bones in the body when it hits.
Wow, that's incredible. That's as big as my damn head.
Yeah.
To witness an attack by a great white is a rare privilege.
We're expecting the shark to just breach out on command, but it doesn't happen like that in nature. These are not the type of experiences you can just come out and see at the drop of the hat. They are very rare, might only happen tomorrow. It really is a matter of patience, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, make another plan.
Will you see the fin or anything like that before it attacks?
You see nothing. What you'll see is suddenly a shark will just appear mid-air, and you'll go, and it'll splash down, but...
When the attack comes, they know it will be sudden and vicious.
Oh, yeah.
You see how,
And
you
it
can
happens
imagine
so
that
quick.
power.
Yeah.
You can't fathom the power that they have, and you know what type of speeds that they must be doing underwater to get that type of reach and thing down. I've seen it 100 times, and each time it just gets you like that.
Johnson pulls in all that's left of the head. The shark spat out the rest.
Seeing these sharks, the one we saw really jumping was about 3 meters, and we have something that's 5 times this size, and seeing the power involved in a shark attack and thinking about what could happen if our monster attacked something and jumped out of the sea. That must be the sight of a lifetime, to see something like that.
Well, my monster is of course like 5 times bigger than this thing here. So, so what we're talking about is we need to generate a lot of power to be able to ambush any prey on the surface. And so this, oh, here it comes again, yeah. 2 findings from Australia of relatives of the monster called Chronosaurus. One of them have a stomach content, that's the shark, and another one has actually a part of a vertebral column of a shark in its mouth. Wow. So relatives of the monster were eating sharks in the Mesozoic.
So you're basically saying what's today's top predator was yesterday's prey?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a very humbling thought.
And when Hurum arrives back in Oslo, he finds his team has taken another huge step forward. They've been working on the section of head and skull bones, which they lifted in a single piece from the ice of Svalbard.
It's the jaw joint. It's both the lower jaw and the part of the upper jaw too, where they join. It's massive. It's so big. It really shows the size of the skull here. This is a skull of at least 10 feet.
Though everything about Predator X was huge, this may be what made it the ultimate predator. Paleontologists like Hurum have documented other creatures which lived in the ancient oceans and might have been of the same size. The predator was as long as Mosasaur, a snake-like reptile. It had as much mass as Megalodon, the ancestor of today's shark. But nothing that ever swam in the ocean had jaws like Predator X. A mouth big enough to encircle an adult human being in a single bite. And now it's this moment, the precise instant when the hunt was finished and the predator caught its prey, that Huram wants to know about. He's going to stare into the most powerful jaws to be found anywhere in the world. By looking at the way today's most powerful jaws operate, he's going to work out the bite force of Predator X. Jørn Huram is coming to believe that what he and his team are rebuilding is the creature that sat at the top of the Jurassic food chain, a prehistoric sea monster. One last experiment could show Jørn the power of the predator's bite. The best way forward is to look at the only creature alive today which bites in the way that the predator did. This is the St. Augustine Alligator Park, Florida. Dr. Greg Erickson spends his time here encouraging alligators to bite. He's devoted his professional life to understanding how reptile jaws work.
In my lab, we're interested in how crocodilians make a living, and a big part of that, of course, is their feeding. So we're interested in the bite forces that these animals generate, what kind of pressures their teeth generate. In other words, what are the mechanics of the muscles and the bones that makes it possible?
What Erickson does is take the data he gets from current species and apply it to species which are extinct. That's what Huram wants him to do for the predator.
The alligators have lungs, they have large heads, they are carnivores, they have lots of teeth, they have powerful jaws, and they swim very well. They're very well adapted to the water. So there's a lot of things here that can be directly compared to the monster.
Again, the key to the predator's power lies in the way that nature engineered it, biomechanics. In his research lab, Erickson has the body of a gator that recently died of natural causes. Everything that Huram has thought till now about the predator's muscle systems has been based on reasoning and guesswork. But this gator head is such a close match in shape, it's the nearest he can get to dissecting Predator X.
It's a good smell too.
One particular muscle produces bite force. It's called the pterygoides, and it sits on either side of the neck.
Look at this. Oh, that's big. That's a large muscle here.
Yeah, this head weighs about 80 pounds, but most of it's muscle, it's not the bone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and this is a big contributor to that weight. This is the posterior pterygoides muscle. When they process alligators for meat, this is one of the choice muscles, and it's just enormous. The secret to this muscle is, if you look right here, there's a central tendon coming down through here, and the muscle fibers come in from the side and attach to that. That's what we call a pinnate muscle. So if all the fibers were pointed in one direction, it would be a much less forceful muscle. It's kind of like in a tug-of-war. The best place to be is on the end of the rope if you want to have the best mechanical advantage to pull with. But if you add a bunch of your buddies along the rope, also pulling from the side, although none of them have as good a place to grab as you do, collectively you generate more force.
If it had been designed by an engineer, we'd say this was a stroke of genius. This kind of muscle design would have helped Predator X to punch way above its weight, and its weight was 45 tons.
I suspect your creature may have had something like this as well. The fibers come in from the side, pulls on this tendon, and it jerks the skull down.
Erickson's plan is to measure the bite force of a number of alligators, each one bigger than the last. When he's got enough data to see how the size of the beast relates to the force of the bite, he'll be able to scale up his findings and reveal the true power of the predator. They begin with a gator which Predator X could have swallowed whole, but it's still 7 feet long and capable of killing an adult human.
One has to be careful when they're handling crocodilians. These are large carnivorous animals that make a living taking down large game, and we're on the menu.
With Huram's help, Erickson has to get the gator out of the water. Difficult enough, but it shares this lagoon with 35 others. This is their territory. As they arrive to find out what's going on, the team drives them away. Still, Ericsson's too experienced to let his guard down.
There's a almost 13-foot alligator laying right there, but you cannot see him. I know he's there.
Is there?
Yeah, his name is Bomber. He hangs out right here.
No.
Oh yeah, they're incredibly stealthy.
Wow.
He's right there. All you're seeing are bubbles. Watch this. Yeah, no, they're incredibly stealthy animals. Crocodilians are just the most amazing ambush predators. A very large crocodile can sneak up to you in just 2 or 3 feet of water, and you wouldn't even know it, particularly in murky water, and all of a sudden, boom, they'll just pop up and ambush. They're imperceptible.
The 7-footer's snared, and it's not happy. While fellow handlers keep the others at bay, Ericsson tries to tape up its snout.
Bomber out of the way.
He's never been seriously bitten, but there's always a first time.
There are no pretty good crocodilian handlers. You're either really good or you're missing an arm. Paul, how come you yank on that tail? Pull her back a little bit.
Hurum's used to being around big-jawed predators, but they tend to be in cases, in museums. And the other alligators are moving in again.
We're pretty close to the water, and of course they can come up out of the water quick. So we have to be careful, watch our backs all the time while we're doing this. This is dangerous animals, really. It's a little nerve-wracking being inside here with all these large predators around.
Ericsson's rigged highly specialized equipment. It's going to have to withstand tremendous pressure.
So this is a bite force transducer. It's designed specifically for testing the bite forces of crocodilians, including alligators. And this can register values up as high as 5,000 pounds, so it's certainly suited for these animals, as you'll soon see.
The experiment itself is deceptively simple. You just put the transducer in the reptile's mouth.
Oh, wow. What was the bite? 678. 678 pounds. Wow. I mean, that's impressive. This is a small alligator.
A small alligator biting with 20 times the force that a lion could bring to bear. And the muscle structure unique to predatory reptiles makes it fast.
From a dead start, they can generate almost 90% of the bite force that they do initially. Eventually, this animal will work the prey into the water and pull it down under and drown it. And so as long as it maintains that grip, it's got a meal. I mean, that's a one-way street. And I mean, unless you can bench 700 pounds or so, you're not getting out from under there.
The 7-footer goes back about its business. Not pleased, but not harmed. Next, it's the biggest bite that Ericsson and Hurum can find. Twice as long, 14 feet. It's deadly. It's awe-inspiring. It's closer to the power of Predator X, but it's still a world away. Predator X hunted like a great white shark. It slid through the water like a nuclear sub, but it bit with a force like no living thing on Earth. Paleontologist Jørn Hurum is trying to find out just how great that force was. He's working with Greg Ericsson, world expert on the biomechanics of the reptile jaw. By scaling up the data they get from measuring an alligator's bite, they can establish the bite power of Hurum's find.
Now that I've seen these alligators today, they are really fantastic animals. And comparing them with the monster, it's possible because this is large swimming reptiles, and that's just what the monster is too. It's just a lot bigger.
It's already become clear that reptiles have a uniquely developed muscle system which gives unparalleled power.
Crocodilians can generate bite forces that just eclipse the values we see in mammals. For instance, lions, hyenas, animals that take down large game, frequently busting up bones in the process. They only generate bite forces of 1,000, maybe 1,500 pounds. Crocodilians can double, perhaps even triple that. Inherently, the larger the animal, the larger the bite force, and that holds true with crocodilians, and it certainly holds true with other fossil reptiles.
The bite they're going to measure is small when compared to that of Predator X, but it belongs to 13 feet of hungry male alligator. They've already tested a 7-footer, and this is going to be much more dangerous. But it's only by repeating the experiment that they can get the data they need. The 13-footer is furious to be caught. It won't be coaxed out. It has to be dragged. But since, like Predator X, the crocodile is heavily reliant on sight as its primary sense, Erickson can use a neat trick to get it to stay still.
Right there?
This is about not taking any chances. A gator likes to lull its prey. Get it to drop its guard before it makes its move, as Greg is about to find out.
They'll start with an initial seizing bite.
The aim is to get the reading as quickly as possible, get the gator back in the lagoon, and get out. The flow of water on the beast's snout encourages it to open its jaws.
All right, you ready for a big one? Yeah. Okay, everybody ready?
Here we go.
Here we go. Wow. 1,890.
Wow.
Almost 1,900 pounds, one of the most powerful bites ever recorded. This is the final piece of information they need to calculate the bite of Predator X.
I have no idea what we're going to find for this animal. It is a magnificent creature. It is enormous. I think it's going to eclipse the bite forces we're getting in crocodilians. These are among the most forceful biters on the planet, and I can imagine that this animal in particular you're talking about is going to be way out there.
With the experiments done, what's left is the math. Erickson will add the results from today's tests to his database and work out the kind of force that Predator X could exert on its prey. What quickly emerges is a pattern, a clear link between how heavy the predator was and how powerful its jaws could be.
Jurgen, what we have here is a plot of the mean adult bite force values for every species of crocodile from our research program. And this includes the values for the alligators that we tested today, which you can see right there. Yep. And the blue are the true crocodiles, which are some of them are the biggest ones of the bunch. And it's very obvious that they ramp up with the size of the animal. The larger the crocodile, the greater the bite force. So I put a regression line through there, and you can see that body size is the #1 determinant of bite force in crocodilians.
Yeah, they all fit into a very nice line,
yes,
too.
Yes, it's nice. And it's a very tight correlation, and that actually holds true with other reptiles as well, which are similar pound for pound in the force that they generate. So I'm confident that this can be used to estimate the bite forces for your monster as well.
In the structure of their jaw muscles, reptiles evolved a near-perfect way of delivering a bite. That's why the jaws of the alligator and the jaws of the predator, though separated by so much time, look so alike. The design could simply not be bettered. And what this means is that Erickson can say with confidence exactly what would happen when these jaws, which haven't bitten in 150 million years, came together. This is the moment Hurum's been working toward since he left Svalbard. He's always wanted to find the ultimate predator. Now he's going to know if he's done it. In the 6 months since Jørn Hurum pulled the bones of a giant pliosaur, Predator X, from a frozen Arctic hillside, he and his team have covered a lot of ground. They continue to study the find in the lab at the Oslo Museum, slowly piecing the shattered fossils back together. Hurrum's been to both the ragged ancient coastline of southern Britain to recreate the predator's world, and to the shark-infested waters of South Africa to see how today's top marine predator makes its kill. Now, a final analysis of the moment when Predator X took its prey in its jaws and bit down. It comes down to this. With data captured by measuring and scaling up the bite force of alligators, Greg Erickson can now tell Hurrum just how powerful the predator really was.
Now I've put in your monster right here, and there it is.
Wow, it's really off the scale, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty mind-boggling. You know, we're looking at 33,000 pounds. You know, that's the highest bite force that's ever been calculated for any animal. So that, you know, this is really out there.
A bite force of 33,000 pounds, more powerful than the jaws of any other creature that ever lived. Twice the bite force of a T-Rex, 10 times what the biggest great white could deliver.
What does it do with a bite like that? Do you have any idea?
Whatever it wants.
Yeah.
In fact, 33,000 pounds of bite force could do this.
How do you like those jaws?
This is an animal that, with those robust teeth and these incredible bite forces, you know, it certainly could feed upon a large plesiosaur. And, I mean, this was a killing machine.
This monster that I found, there's no other animals that could defeat this monster ever. Not in the sea in the Jurassic times, not in the seas today. With the powerful bite that Greg calculated, that no animals ever had before or after, I'm pretty confident saying that this is the ultimate predator.
At the Oslo Museum, the final piece of the puzzle slots into place. Patrick Druckenmiller has been sent the images which prove, once and for all, that this predator really did rule the ocean.
So I received some really exciting information from a colleague in Australia about a specimen of a pliosaur called Kronosaurus that was part of its abdominal cavity of this big pliosaur, and inside of it are the remains of a long-necked plesiosaur. Clearly they were...
So what do we see here? These are ribs, isn't it?
So we're seeing the blue areas shaded are the gastralia, the belly ribs on the bottom of the animal, and the bones of the prey item, which were the long-necked plesiosaur or the elasmosaur, that are shown in the shade of purple. If there's anything that's the smoking gun for evidence, direct evidence of predation of other large animals, having a large animal like a long-necked plesiosaur inside the abdominal cavity of a pliosaur, I mean, that pretty much says it all right there.
This is what happened when our predator met a long-necked plesiosaur. Hurrum now has everything he needs to know exactly what this predator did. He's seen the way it powered through the ocean, conserving energy with the deadly efficiency of an attack submarine, 45 tons of meat and bone driven by 4 vast flippers. He's seen the kind of brain it had, simple, but perfectly developed for its job. With highly specialized acute visual perception, it could spot its prey, the plesiosaur, at long range. And now he's seen what would happen when Predator X closed in. Jørn Hurrum returns to the lake, where as a child he imagined monsters.
With everything we learned in the field, in the lab, from the bones, from today's predators, I can finally picture the moment that made our monster the ultimate predator.
The work goes on, but what Hurram and his team have uncovered is enough to redefine what we know about the distant past of our planet. It rewrites the history of our oceans. Through 150 million years, this beast remained unsurpassed in power, in weight, in its position as the ocean's biggest killing machine. Until or unless the mountains of Svalbard give up another secret, unless there's a species out there still waiting to be discovered, Predator X will remain the ultimate predator.